Hello and welcome to this thought for the day from the Chapel's Royal Her Majesty's Tower of London. Greetings and good health to you wherever you are. Today's Tuesday, the 15th of June, 2021. I want to think this week about something called replicability. Replicability. It may sound a bit dry and technical, but bear with me. Replicability is a basic concept in the scientific method. You have an idea, a hypothesis, that if you conduct a certain experiment, it will have a certain result. If it doesn't, you either drop or modify your hypothesis, or see if you've made a mistake in the experiment, for example. But let's say that you have your hypothesis, you conduct your experiment, and you do get the result that you hoped for. If you've been trying to prove something novel and important, you now publish your result, and the congratulations roll in. A few years ago, you may remember, some scientists claimed they had successfully conducted an experiment in nuclear fusion. This is something of a holy grail for those trying to produce cheap and clean energy, but there are many who claim that it is theoretically impossible. So along came this group who said they'd cracked it, or rather, because this was fusion, not fission, not cracked it, but stuck it together. It seemed that an era of almost limitless and virtually free electricity was upon us, except that it was not. It was not because nobody could replicate the experiment. Whether they hoped to debunk the original finding or confirm it, other researchers were simply unable to replicate the result claimed by the original group. So nuclear fusion slunk back to its place in the science fiction shelves. Well, for now at least. No harm done, although it will have given the big electricity generators a bit of a nasty moment. But replicability, or the lack of it, is a bigger issue when it comes to the social sciences, which affect how we perceive each other and act towards each other. Many people nowadays are invited, nay required, by their employers to undergo unconscious bias training sessions. These first aim to prove to people that they have unconscious biases against certain groups on the basis of factors such as race, religion, politics, or sexuality, for example. Participants in these sessions are usually required to undertake a test, which it is claimed demonstrates incontrovertibly that the person concerned harbors unconscious bias. Using such a psychological instrument, said to be derived from robust research findings, is intended to eliminate from the start any individual claims to be free of unconscious bias. Its scientific basis in the psychology laboratories of Harvard, no less, surely puts an end to any argument as to individual innocence. The test in question is called the implicit association test. The implicit association test. Briefly, it claims to demonstrate by measuring very small differences in reaction times when exposed to images such as white faces or black faces, male or female faces, and the choice of positive or negative words, that you have particular unconscious biases. So if you had minimal hesitation in clicking on aggressive when shown a picture of a skinhead, but took rather longer to do so when presented with a picture of a nun, you would be deemed to have an unconscious bias against skinheads. This is a deliberately silly example, but you can see how it could be far more sensitive matter if you were being presented with pictures of people from different races or religions. A whole industry has grown up around the implicit association test, and by now, probably millions of people have taken it and come away shocked at the scientific evidence that they harbor unconscious biases. The problem is that nobody has been able to replicate the experiment. This is not because it's too complicated or expensive, or the original researchers possessed impossibly superior intellects. It's because there is no sound basis on which the test can be proved to show anything worth knowing. In the jargon, the findings lack validity. I will not bore you with the toing and froing about it, but suffice it to say that the original Harvard researchers themselves, when challenged to prove that the test genuinely indicated unconscious bias in individuals who took it, said, and I quote, "If the IAT measures a particular attitude at a given time in a specific social context, there is nothing inherently problematic or unethical about providing people with feedback concerning that attitude measurement, recognizing that it is, after all, only one measurement at one point in time." To put it simply, they admit that it does not and cannot indicate unconscious bias in an individual. And in any case, it is not, as they claim, a measurement of attitude. It is a measurement of reaction times to certain visual and verbal stimuli, which are subsequently interpreted by the researchers according to, you guessed it, an algorithm of their own design. Now, it is not my intention to attack the integrity of the researchers in question. They honestly wanted to find a way of demonstrating scientifically in individual cases that we do have unconscious biases. This is an important subject. We like certain things better than others, and it might be perhaps because of our particular life experiences that we hesitate before attributing positive words to some images. There are also many extraneous factors which can interfere. To take just one, for example, if you were an American of Latino extraction and remember that the test originated in the USA, it might take you longer to process the Anglo-Saxon word threatening than the Latin-based word menacing, or less time to process amiable than likable. What would that tell you about your unconscious bias? Well, to be kind, let's just say nothing useful. You can hardly pick up a paper or listen to the news without being told that scientists have discovered something or other. We talk of being blinded by science, and journalists can be pretty gullible when offered what looks like a scoop. Sometimes, wonderfully, the news is true, as with the various coronavirus vaccines. In this case, other scientists across the world have indeed been able to replicate the original findings, whether they are testing the efficacy of the vaccine or conducting epidemiological studies on vaccination campaigns. But back to unconscious bias. Does it exist? I'm sure it does. Does it matter? Yes, I'm sure it does. If we believe in working for the kingdom of God, in which all are treated justly and without prejudice, then of course we must try to exclude bias from our own judgments of others. Jesus had no unconscious bias, but saw people for what they were. We all need to do our best to do likewise. Just don't place too much reliance on the implicit association test.